It's not often you get to say that Jesus was wrong, but I'm gonna say it. Jesus was wrong about hell, and so was I, and so are you.
What the hell?
Besides the book of Revelation, the only place where we get a really good description of hell is by Jesus, and he's telling a story about a beggar named Lazarus and a rich man named Richmond. Jesus tells a story about these guys going to heaven and hell. But here's the thing, Jesus is totally wrong. You want to know why? Because Jesus isn't talking about hell at all. Here's the story really quickly. Mr. Richmond has a great life, and there's a beggar who lives outside of his compound who has a terrible life. Then they both die. The rich guy goes to hell. No, he doesn't. He goes to Hades. And Lazarus goes to heaven. No, he doesn't. He goes to Abraham's bosom. Seriously. While they're in the afterlife, Mr. Richmond starts talking to Lazarus and starts asking him for things and bossing him around and asking for this and that. And Abraham, who is just chilling there in the afterlife, he's like, no, you don't get good stuff now because you got good stuff in life. Lazarus, he got bad stuff in life, so he's getting good stuff now. This story is always used to describe eternal conscious torment, the traditional view about hell, that people will be aware of their torment forever. I've been learning about this. Check out this video wherever I put it. Check it out to learn more about that. But here's the thing, Jesus is totally wrong about hell in this story. Why? Because the story isn't about hell. Jesus is not talking about hell, and here's how I know. Mr. Richmond goes to Hades. Now, if you were Greek, alive at the time of Jesus, you would know that no one stays in Hades forever. Sure, it sucks there, and there's punishment, and no one wants to go there. But first of all, Hades isn't Christian. It's in Greek mythology, and in Greek mythology, Hades is a waiting place for the dead. Hades is not hell. Secondly, there is a word that Jesus used for hell, and the word was Gehenna. But Gehenna is not a spiritual place. It's actually a physical place. Gehenna is a valley outside of Jerusalem where some really bad stuff happened. How bad, Patrick? Really bad, really bad. Like Israelites burning up their children as a sacrifice for a pagan god. Seriously, that happened. And it happened in God's city by God's people. So when Jesus mentioned the bad place, hell, he's imagining a place so bad that God cursed it because people were burning up babies. Jesus' main way of describing hell is a metaphor. But Jesus didn't use that word. Jesus didn't talk about hell because this story isn't describing hell. Because if Jesus is describing hell in this story, then Jesus has gone completely insane. Check this out. Think about hell. Imagine whatever hell you think is like. Do you think in hell you can just see into heaven? And then that heaven is the place where Abraham just hangs out with you? That's not hell at all. And then how are you gonna recognize people in heaven, people who died before you were even born? Welcome to hell, here are your mutant powers. Secondly, no one believes that there's this valley between heaven and hell. We really think that heaven and hell are so close that they're neighbors? And then this valley that's too big to cross is yet close enough so people can talk across it? That makes no sense. And this isn't even the craziest part. Did you catch why Mr. Richmond goes to Hades? It has nothing to do with God, prayer, salvation, godliness, faith. It has nothing to do with that. Richmond went to Hades, hell, the bad place, because he had a good life. And Lazarus goes to heaven, Abraham's bosom, because he had a bad life. That's why he goes to heaven? Richmond is Jewish. He recognizes Abraham. So a guy goes to hell just because he had a good life? What the heaven? If this story really is about hell, then every Christian I've ever known, every pastor, every theologian is wrong about hell, because nobody thinks that anything in this story is about hell. And this story isn't about heaven either. Jesus is using this story to describe the kinds of people who live with God. Are you poor? Are you poor in spirit? Do you trust God to take care of you? That's the kind of person who lives with God eternally. Are you someone who neglects the poor? Do you care about only yourself? Do you think that people exist to serve you? Then you already have a kingdom. Population, you. I had lunch with a rabbi one time and I asked him all of these questions. If you want to know more about that, check out the video here. But one of the things he told me was that rabbis, like Jesus, they often use stories about the afterlife to teach lessons about this one. And what does this story teach us? It teaches us something really simple. People who love God love other people. The good guy in this story is God. God takes care of others, so we're supposed to do that too. The bad guy, he ignored people. And well, God took care of him, if you know what I'm saying. So Jesus isn't wrong. That was totally clickbait down there. But we are wrong if we use this story to come up with any belief about the afterlife. Don't turn a story about charity into a story about hell. Over lunch, Rabbi Harry told me that the Jewish Bible, what we call the Old Testament, doesn't talk about the afterlife that much because God is so concerned with what happens in this life. And you know what? When you look at the story about hell, it has more to do with this life than the next. Because the kingdom of God is a kingdom that cares about all people in all places. It's an outward-facing kingdom. It doesn't have borders. It doesn't build walls. It builds relationships through love and sacrifice. I'll see you next week.